With the trade deadline in just over a month away, the trade rumors are heating up and the Boston Celtics are in the mix of it. We have a Bleacher Report article where we'll be diving into 3 possible additions that the Boston Celtics could make if they want to get some better bench help. Welcome back to Celtics Digest. I'm Bruce Veliz, and in this episode, we'll be looking at those 3 guys here in this Bleacher Report article, and we'll be looking at how impactful they would be for the Boston Celtics and how likely it is that the Boston Celtics land each 3 of these candidates. But before we dive into any Boston Celtics content, I would like to say that roughly right around 80% of our viewers are not subscribed. I would greatly appreciate it if you hit the big old red subscribe button and join the Celtics Digest family. We're getting closer and closer to our goal of 3,000 subscribers. So if you guys make sure you want to stay up to date on daily Boston Celtics content, hit that subscribe button. You definitely won't regret it. But let's dive into the news at hand today. So make sure to grab a snack, as today is going to be a jam-packed episode as we dive in exploring the Boston Celtics possible additions that they could make. Now, we all know that the Boston Celtics have a traded player exception that they've gotten over the summer for Grant Williams. And unfortunately for the Boston Celtics, none of these 3 guys in this article are applicable to use the TPE on. Their contracts are just too big to use the TPE on. So the Celtics would have to trade a guy like Al Horford or possibly some of their lower end rotation guys in a combination to get some of these deals done. But let's dive into it. We have another article from Zach Buckley. We broke down the last one, going over his last 3 trade additions, and in this one, the Celtics trade targets with 2024 NBA trade deadline a month away. If you guys do not know, the trade deadline is on February 8th, so it's getting closer and closer, and the Celtics are definitely in the mix of things. But let's dive in and look at these 3 candidates. So the first one we're going to be looking at is Alec Burks. And Alec Burks is a solid veteran shooter for the Detroit Pistons. They got him from the New York Knicks, and he had a pretty solid role in the New York Knicks as the starting shooting guard and kind of 6th, 7th man-esque on them a couple of years ago. But on this Detroit Pistons team that has been trying to contend, he just has been solid, but the Pistons just haven't been good enough for him to help out on a contending team, and he's definitely helpful on a contending team. If we want to look at Alec Burks' stats throughout the season, you can see he's averaging 10.6 points on 2.2 total rebounds and 1.3 assists, shooting 36% from the field, which is lower than his usual career, but he's averaging around the same amount of points. He's shooting 36% from 3 and 88% from the free throw line. And versus the Boston Celtics in that Detroit Pistons game, Alec Burks was hitting some big-time shots for the Detroit Pistons, and they were running the ball through him a decent amount. And he could be a great shooting guard off the bench, and especially in a role that the Celtics don't really have. They have a lot of point guards in Derrick White and Jrue Holiday. Jaylen Brown is kind of a 2 for the Celtics, but he definitely is more of a wing in my opinion, so I think he's more of a 3. So the only really 2 that we realistically for sure have is Sfima Hyluk, and we all know how he plays. The Celtics have a combination of 1 and 3s. As basketball has now gone kind of positionless, you don't really realistically need a set position, but a guy like Alec Burks could be a great shooting guard off the bench and can be a great addition for the Celtics team. Like I mentioned, though, his contract does not fall into the TPE. He is making $10 million a year. So the Boston Celtics were to look to get a guy like Alec Burks, they would have to use a combination of contracts, or they would have to use a guy in Al Horford's contract with some second-round picks to get the deal done. Will I think that it will happen? Most likely not, but I think he would personally be a great addition to this Celtics team. Next, let's dive in and talk about another guy that we've mentioned already on this episode before in the past, and that is Kelly Olynyk. Kelly Olynyk obviously spent his first 4 NBA seasons in Boston, and there's a chance his 11th will end there too. The Boston Celtics have been in rumors already to be interested in Kelly Olynyk. The big man is a great stretch big that can help out in our weakened front court because a guy like Kristaps Porzingis and has been solid for the Boston Celtics. We've already seen some injuries kind of come in here, and the Celtics definitely need depth at that position. Al Horford getting a little bit up in age. Luke Kornet has had some great performances, but hasn't looked the most solid on every single given night. And Neemias Queta, again, has had some solid performances, especially with this West Coast trip where he posted 2 double-doubles. But we've also seen him not perform the greatest and still having trouble finishing at the rim. So The Celtics looking to add some depth, especially another knockdown shooter that can hit threes and kind of play a combination of what Kristaps, Porzingis, and Al Horford are together to fit into that backcourt will just help out the Boston Celtics tremendously. If we want to look at Kelly Olynyk's stats, you can see he's averaging 8.2 points on the season, 5.4 total rebounds, and 4.7 assists. So a little down on the points, but he is averaging about two more assists in his career this season. He's also shooting the ball at a much more efficient clip, 56% compared to 48%, 40% from 3 compared to 36%, and 90% from the free throw compared to his career average of 79%. So Kelly Olynyk having a career high number in shooting splits this season and also being a very effective player for the Utah Jazz. In the game versus the Detroit Pistons, where a lot of people set out, Kelly Olynyk was a phenomenal piece for that Utah Jazz team and could easily be a helpful piece to a contending team. Again, like with Alec Burks, his contract does not fit into the TPE, and he makes $12 million. So it'd be very tough for the Boston Celtics to get a deal done, which could work out for both sides, sending a bunch of combined contracts, or they would have to send out Al Horford, like I mentioned in the past. I realistically don't think sending out Al Horford for Kelly Olynyk gets the job done. I think you'd have to send a bunch of compiled smaller guys with second-round picks, but ultimately, I don't know if that ultimately gets the job done for the Boston Celtics either. I think the Utah Jazz can get a bunch of offers for a guy like Kelly Olynyk from multiple teams. A lot of people are saying Celtics could buy Kelly Olynyk. If he gets bought out, they could re-sign him. But personally, I don't see him getting bought out. I think his contract is tradable, and there will be teams that are very interested in Kelly Olynyk alongside the Boston Celtics. And lastly, the next player that we're going to be diving into in this video is Delon Wright from the Washington Wizards. Delon Wright has an eye for playmaking and impressive versatility on the defensive end. Blur your eyes and you can see a rough outline of former Boston Celtics fan favorite Marcus Smart, right down to the shaky outside shooting. And Delon Wright has kind of been solid for the Washington Wizards. If we want to look at his stats, he's only played in 12 games this season, averaging 4.5 points, 2.4 total rebounds, 3.7 assists. Shooting 37% from the field, 29% from 3, and 89% from the free throw. So up in the free throw percentage, but a little down in the field goal and the three-point percentage. Delon Wright, like they said in the article, is a lot like Marcus Smart in the way shaky outside shooting, but can be a terrific playmaker and a terrific defender at the point guard position. I think that the Boston Celtics were looking to beef up their defensive guard prowess. They would look after a guy in Delon Wright. But out of the three guys on this list, I think Delon Wright doesn't make any sense for the Boston Celtics compared to the other two. I think we already have great defensive guards in Jrue Holiday and Derrick White. They've stepped up tremendously for the Boston Celtics. And a guy like Payton Pritchard playing that offensive role type of point guard is what we need. We definitely don't need three defensive type of point guards. And I don't see the Celtics, again, because he is outside the TPE, he makes $8 million a year. I don't see the Boston Celtics combining a bunch of small contracts, throwing in to get a guy like Delon Wright to replace them when they already have a guy like Dalano Banton, who's a very similar guy, who's a lot younger and is cheaper as well compared to Delon Wright. I don't think that this move threads the needle at all for the Boston Celtics, but I think it would be a cool addition for the Celtics to go after if he did get bought out, just because he had some inactive games. Maybe he was injured, or I believe he was injured, but I would like to see the Celtics go after a guy in Alec Burks or Kelly Olynyk a little bit more than Delon Wright, just because Delon Wright, he has been effective, just has slowed down a little bit over the last couple years, and I think a guy like Kelly Olynyk or Alec Burks could really help make a playoff push. But let me know, ranking your three guys, and who you think the Celtics should get out of these three. Personally, I think it should go Alec Burks, Kelly Olynyk, then Delon Wright in the order that we brought them and broke them down for you guys. But let me know what you guys think. I love to read your guys' comments. Thank you guys so much for tuning into this episode of Celtics Digest. If you guys are at this point in the video and still aren't subscribed, make sure to hit that subscribe button, as we know you enjoy that content. I'm Bruce Veliz, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out.